What was it like to cover two other GOATs, Shaq and Kobe?
Well, it was fun. I mean, Shaq made things so much fun. I mean, Shaq was a brilliant basketball player who obviously was a big guy. And like Wilt Chamberlain said, nobody loves a giant. So everybody used to beat up on Shaq, and he used to have to take it from the referees and take it from opponents and so forth. But Shaq's a big, lovable guy, still is to this day. But there was a personality conflict with Kobe because they each felt that it was their team, and obviously Phil Jackson was involved in this, and Shaq was a much more sensitive guy, so Kobe got beaten up upon, and it took a toll on Kobe, and it set him back. It didn't necessarily shake him in terms of his ability to move forward and continue to achieve greatness and want to be the best basketball player of all time. He was myopic in that view, but it wore him down. And so, they didn't have an appreciation. Shaq didn't have necessarily an appreciation of Kobe until it was too late, until him and Phil had beaten him up so bad that Kobe just wanted out and wanted away. And because he wanted away, and they figured that it was better for Shaq to move on. When he went through that diatribe with me in the interview that we did, Kobe had a tremendous amount of venom. And one thing I think that having been his teammate, Matt, and then having that famous thing where, and you saw where he didn't flinch when you were with the Orlando Magic. One thing about Kobe was myopic, and he just wanted to win. And if you were in his way as an opponent, he got you out of the way. And if you were in his way as a teammate, guess what? He treated you the same way. He got you out of the way. Right. And he did the same thing with Phil. He had total disdain for a long time with Phil Jackson. He despised him. And even Phil wrote in his book that he could feel that hatred coming from Kobe. Now, they ended up fine, and they ended up winning more championships. And they patched it up later in life as they moved on. But Kobe was certainly distracted and distraught with that treatment. And so when he gave that interview, I had to tone him down. I said, Kobe, we can't, and it's in the Talking to Goats book. I said, Kobe, if I put this on the air, there was one statement in particular. I said, first of all, you'll never, ever have any kind of a relationship, let alone win championships with this guy and this organization. But you'll also have a hard time just going to work every day. I said, we'll let the rest of this go because they're your words, not mine. But the one statement that we took out, that I said, Kobe, I'm editing this out. I said, not only for you, but for me, I have to have a relationship with Shaq. He said that Shaquille O'Neal, he was referring to, he said, the guy selling donuts at the 7-Eleven had more pride in his job than Shaq did. And this was the same interview that he had gone public calling him fat and lazy, and that he had surgery on the organization's time, and he would do it on company time instead of his time, why he wasn't ready for the season. And so, it was volatile enough without that. And for the next 2 or 3 years, Shaq, I called Shaq before this interview came out to give him a heads up, because I really liked Shaq and I enjoyed covering him, and we had a terrific relationship, and he didn't want to respond. And then it came out, and he threatened to kill Kobe the next day. In fact, they put in a metal detector over there, and Kobe jumped up and said, let's fight. Okay, and all of this has been confirmed by Shaq as recently as the All-Star game this February in Chicago, and by John Black, the PR director of the Lakers, former PR director. But anyway, I called him to let him know this interview was coming out, guys, and he didn't want to respond. But for the next 2 or 3 years, he called me Trader Gray. Here comes Trader Gray, and he wouldn't talk to me. Trader Gray, Trader Gray. So we have a great relationship now, and I love Shaq. But when you ask about what it was like to cover them, they had obviously tremendous highs with those three-peat championships, and to see that excellence of one of the greatest tandems in the history of basketball. But they also had some really, really, really low lows. And so it was always unique and interesting. And I loved Kobe. I knew Kobe from the time that he was an infant in his mother Pam's arms. I was a scout, believe it or not, guys, for the San Diego Clippers for Paul Silas and Pete Babcock.
Wow.
So I had known Kobe as just, I'd seen Kobe grow from when his dad, Jelly Bean, played for the Clippers, and obviously my time in Philadelphia and then so forth. But still hurt and grief that loss, and it's just tragic for Vanessa and the girls and the other families. But covering them was a great joy, and it was really, really an interesting time and something that we'll never see again.
Nothing. You know, what I find interesting, obviously, is to me, knowing Kobe the way I did, and when I hear new stories, he used all the negativity as fire. Like, that's what you saw on the court. That Mamba he had a way of channeling all the other noise and distractions and bullshit into fire. But then at the same time, it's also amazing to hear the human side, to let people know, like, people have feelings. Like, this really wore him down. And I never knew that. And like, to me, like I said, it's just interesting, especially when you're hearing about the GOATs, but just people in general. I think often people think we're robots, that we're just straight athletes, and because we make money, nothing affects us, nothing. But it's interesting to hear the human and the emotional side of what that caused, you know, because I hear a lot and have been around LA kind of since Kobe got here, and you would hear stuff like, damn, they really did used to fuck with Kobe. You know, I heard one story one time where, and it was confirmed, that Kobe would come on the plane or the bus sometimes with his headphones on but off, just so he can kind of hear what kind of shit that Shaq was gonna, you know, kind of be saying. But you know, everyone, you might have thought they were on, but to kind of hear, you know, the human side and how that did beat him up and wear him down, but to see the finished product of what it turned him into, you know, it was pretty special.
Shaq was brutal to Kobe. Okay, he was brutal in many ways. Take all the success aside. I mean, you know, Shaq knows how to get everybody to coalesce around him. He's fun. He's engaging. He's light.
Shaq is a great. Yeah, Shaq is a great. You know, I play with Shaq. I love Shaq to death. But like I said, you were around, and then hearing stories, it sounds like it was an all out attack.
Well, he knew how to recruit guys into his camp. And Kobe wasn't trying to be in anybody's camp. Kobe was trying to be the best basketball player ever and win championships. So he wasn't engaged in that type of fraternal order, or, you know, be the Pied Piper, so to speak. And so, you know, it worked against him and hurt him, but it also helped elevate him because he became stronger mentally, that Mamba mentality. And, you know, the good thing is by the end of Kobe's life, you know, they had worked out a detente. They weren't close. They weren't the best of buddies. They didn't hang out. But, you know, they had a detente that they realized the time that they had spent together was special, that it probably had ended too soon. But Kobe went on and did what he wanted to do and proved to himself that he could be a champion with Pau Gasol and with other teammates, and to be the leader of the group instead of having, you know, Shaq make a self-declaration that it was his team. Kobe was able to prove that, no, it was in fact his team. So, and at the end of the day, you know, you probably never know how good you have it till you don't have it anymore. I mean, everybody's life is kind of riddled with that, right? All of us look back and say, you know, that was pretty good. Why did I do things like that? And I think that they had come to that, like I say, that detente where they had come back together, not close, but just not antagonized anymore.
What made Kobe, in your eyes, so special?
He cared so much. He cared. He dug into everything deeply. If he was committed, he was committed. And that meant friendship too, and loyalty. He was very loyal to me. I saw his loyalty play out in numerous ways to a host of folks. And he never forgot. This guy had a memory. You talk about elephants have memories? No. Kobe's have memories. They should rename the term. This guy did not forget anything about anybody at any time. If it was an act of kindness, he always appreciated it. If it was a slight, he had it filed. He had a big cabinet, and he knew. He knew where everybody was all the time, and he had it all sorted out. So he had a great memory, and he could also compartmentalize. And he would use for good what worked for good for him, and use for bad, as you pointed out earlier, that motivation and that fire, and it drove him. And I think the other thing that happened with Kobe is Kobe had thousands and thousands of acts of kindness, and he didn't look for recognition of it. He didn't want that acknowledgement. He didn't want that to go against that Mamba mentality that maybe somehow somebody might figure out that he had a softness, that would work against him.
Absolutely.
But let's remember what's the most lasting impression that we have now of Kobe Bryant. It's kissing Gigi. It's girl dad, that hashtag. It's not only what he achieved on the basketball court, but it's that love that everybody has for him, what they saw off the court. And I was able to see that, virtually his whole life. And so, and that's what hurts so bad, is that we don't have that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy you said that the lasting memory, because I felt the same way. I actually got that tattooed on my leg. Her at the All-Star game reaching up and giving her dad a kiss. I got that tattooed on my leg about 4 months ago. So that is, at the end of the day, say what you want. To me, that's what it was for me. Everything else was great, but the dad he was what was so special. And that's what really where our connection grew, was with kids, and him sending my kids shoes, and him coming to my kids' AAU games, and us going to check out Gigi's games. Like, that's was my